First, would you start us in the pledge this evening, please?
I'd be happy. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Victor, would you please say a prayer?
Yes. Father God, we come before you in Jesus' name, and we thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us. We thank you for the opportunity you've given us to make things straight, Lord. Give us wisdom and understanding to make the right decisions tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Need a roll call, please?
Counselor Johnson?
Here.
Counselor Lorenz?
Here.
Counselor Segala?
Here.
Counselor Ellithorpe?
Here.
Mayor Becker?
Here.
A quorum is declared.
Okay, we have a modification to the agenda.
Mayor, I move that we modify the agenda to add a proclamation for Law Enforcement Records Personnel Week.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we amend the agenda for proclamation? Is there more discussion?
Mr. Mayor, could we also add under that section introduction of Robert Gill, the city's new HR coordinator?
We can do that. Need to amend that? We just put it in.
So moved.
Yeah, so moved. Somebody.
Counselor Ellithorpe?
Aye.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll do HR director first for us.
Sure. Sitting here somewhere. So I'm pleased to introduce you this evening to Robert Gill. He goes by Bob, and he's our new HR coordinator. He'll come up and talk to you a little bit about his experience, and that way you can put a name to the face. Face the name, however that works.
Hi everybody, thank you.
All right.
Pleasure meeting you all. My name is Bob Gill, I'm the new HR coordinator. And in addition to human resources, I'll also be coordinating safety and training for the city. I'm originally from over near Grand Junction area, and when I graduated from high school, I went in the United States Air Force, and that's where I got most of my personnel HR experience. I did that for a little over 20 years in the Air Force. After I retired, my wife and I moved to Wisconsin, which is where she's from, so we could take care of her family. While I was in Wisconsin, I worked for a family-owned business, almost 200 employees, and I did safety and training for them, management, a little bit of HR. And fortunately, well, not fortunately, we don't have to be in Wisconsin anymore. So fortunately, we got to move back to Colorado and landed in Monte Vista. That's what I'm fortunate about. And so we live here now, and when I'm not working, we have horses. We like to ride horses a lot, do some hunting and fishing and outdoor type activities. I have 7 horses, a dog, and 3 cats. And that pretty much sums it up. If there's anything I can do for any of you at any time, please don't hesitate.
Thank
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Now we'll do the proclamation. State of Colorado proclamation. Whereas dedicated law enforcement records personnel serve the people of Colorado and provide them with vital service, and whereas law enforcement records personnel are crucial to assisting law enforcement agencies in the identification, pursuit, capture, and processing of suspects, and whereas these professionals continually use their expertise and experience in maintaining criminal justice agency records and statistics, providing data for improving apprehension strategies, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and committed personnel who staff law enforcement records is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding the importance of the work they perform, and whereas law enforcement records personnel serving the state of Colorado have exhibited professionalism, efficiency, and compassion during the performance of their essential duties in the past year. And whereas Coloradoans are encouraged to recognize our state's law enforcement records personnel for their valuable contribution to our law enforcement community. Therefore, this is from the governor, so I am not John Hickenlooper, but I, John W. Hickenlooper, Governor of the State of Colorado, do hereby proclaim the period between November 5th, 2018 and November 9th, 2018 as Law Enforcement Records Personnel Week.
Thank you. And this is first ever, so if you get a chance, thank Irene and Angie. Maybe email or text or something.
All right.
They work
That's
hard.
very good. Cool. That's great.
Let's go.
Okay. Approval of consent agenda.
And move we approve the consent agenda as amended.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded, the approval of the consent agenda. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Ellipfort?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye?
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I apologize for moving the proclamation up ahead of when it's supposed to be. But we got it done. Citizen comments, special presentation, scheduled appearances. In order to be included on this portion of the agenda, please file the appropriate paperwork form with the city clerk no later than noon on Monday prior to the meeting. And City Council will welcome your unscheduled comments. And this is for the citizens' comment part, but I'm reading it out in advance because I'm in a hurry, I guess. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Council will not take action at the same meeting on the citizen comments. So, Monte Vista Head Start, Francis Valdez.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First, let me thank you for the opportunity to come here tonight. I'm Francis Valdez, the Executive Director of the Monte Vista Community Center, which operates the Monte Vista Head Start. And my interest was to really come and introduce myself to the City Council and to thank you for all the support of the many years that the City of Monte Vista has given the Monte Vista Head Start. Because in essence, you are our landlord. So I did want to introduce myself to our landlord and again, just say thank you so much for all the years of support that the City of Monte Vista has given us. And to invite council people at any time. If you like a tour of the facility, please, you're very welcome. Come see what we've done. We have improved a lot of the security systems within the facility. And we worked hard to get that done. So we would invite you at any time to come in and have a tour. Come see what we're doing. And like I said, my biggest interest was really to introduce myself as the Executive Director. And again, to give my thanks for all the support the City of Monte Vista has given us. Thank you.
Nice to meet you,
Thank you for
Francis.
coming.
Thank you.
Presentation of the 2018 Seagate Award, the Seagate Cup Award to the City of Monte Vista IT Department. Come on, IT.
Sometimes hard to pull them out of the woodwork.
Wow, you weren't kidding.
Good evening, council. It is a cup.
Well,
Um,
put it right in front of you. Oh, it gets now.
We'll put the candy next to you, Gary.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to read you a letter from the sitting chair of the Colorado Government Association of Information Technology. He'd like for us to relay to you, dear city councilors, please allow me to introduce the Colorado Government Association of Information Technology. Seagate is a professional organization made up of information technology leaders directors, CIOs, and other information technology professionals. The mission of our organization is to promote advances in information technology and to facilitate networking, collaboration, cooperation, and education among Colorado government IT leaders. Membership in Seagate is open to all cities, counties, and special districts in Colorado. It's my pleasure to announce that the City of Monte Vista Information Technology Department has been awarded the 2018 Colorado Government Association of Information Technology Seagate Cup Award. The Seagate Cup Challenge is a competition held during each Seagate Fall Conference. The Seagate Cup Award recognizes creative and meaningful government technology efforts across Seagate member agencies. The Cup competition requires that an in-person presentation be made by a representative of a member agency interested in competing. Winners are awarded the traveling Seagate Cup to display at their organization for the following year. The winner of the Cup gets to choose a competition topic for the following year's conference and facilitate the competition and transfer the Cup to the subsequent winner. The Cup lists each of the previous winners and topics. The list represents a significant cross-section of Seagate member organizations, both large and small. The topic of the 2018 Seagate Cup was Best Data Center Overhaul. Brendan Gallegos presented on behalf of your IT team, describing the outstanding work they've been doing in partnership with other agencies in the San Luis Valley. The Seagate members in attendance voted overwhelmingly to award the city for their efforts. Your IT team competed with Larimer County, Arapahoe County, Eagle County, and West Metro Fire Protection District in this year's competition. Please accept the congratulations of the Seagate Board of Directors and our members for winning this prestigious award. Christian Batzer is your IT team. We are here in conjunction with an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Alamosa.
Take a second to thank everybody that was involved in this process. I know a lot of staff as well as counselors continue to work together to help make the intergovernmental agreement between Alamosa and Monte Vista actually work and bring the best out of both cities. So just wanted to thank you, and I also wanted to thank my parents who are also here.
Good job, guys.
You guys did a great job.
Need a picture with you.
Part of the award is that they have to fill it with something local. Louisville, being the last winner, found it funny to put a bunch of dum-dums in the top of the cup with Smarties underneath. I'll have you know. So we'll have this on display here at City Hall for a while.
That's great. All right. Yeah. Get a good shot of that.
Big cheesy smiles, guys.
1, 2.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Is there any citizen comment?
They're coming, they're coming.
Okay, once again, we welcome your unscheduled comments. Please limit the comments to 3 minutes. Council will not take action at the same meeting. Mr. Poston, you're first, sir.
Jim Postman, apartment number 1, 47 Adams, Monte Vista. I'm against the proposed contract renewal. I attended the budget work session and we were looking to cut about $50,000 from the budget. I have heard that we have paid Mr. Douglas slash local business assist $3,800 to $4,800 for 6 months. Can Monte Vista really afford that, or is the payment to the grant writer, assuming that the grant writing is paying for the business assist fund? Again, I'm against the contract renewal unless it is on a month-by-month basis with performance clauses included. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse you as councilman for a few minutes.
Thank
You had 3 minutes, sir.
I don't get 3 minutes up there. That's why. I had more time here. It seems this, and coincidentally, is along the same subject. It seems economic development is okay as long as it doesn't cost anything or offend anyone, and that seems to be a bit of a challenge and will continue, I'm sure. Economic development has been discussed and tried and failed for at least the last decade, and from what I've been able to find out, for several decades. Some of the best minds and proposals have been brought to tackle the subject, and many continue to produce inroads. The Asplins, the Wisdoms, the Garcias, experts from Castle Rock, URGED, local city councils, and untold others have had their impact, and their work is not to be discounted. But if that has been the foundation, then the timing is right for an activist like Ron Douglas and the local business assist paradigm. Based on the history and vision, on his history and vision, he was hired earlier this year to develop, promote, and assist new and existing businesses in our town. The question seems to be, has he done that? From day one, this business community has been stirred up. For better or worse, business owners and the community really began paying attention. His reports were encouraging, but we wanted more detail. So the validation and an elaborate presentation was prepared showing what's been accomplished and what is on the horizon. But some wanted more proof, so live testimonials were brought in from folks who made it clear why they were here or considering moving their business here, and not only claiming Mr. Douglas' influence in asserting that he was the main or even the only reason who brought their enterprise to Monte Vista. 6 or 8 of those, not counting the startups or transfers that were indirectly influenced, in approximately 6 months of effort is pretty substantial proof. But some wanted even more proof in the form of empirical data and actual time spent and work involved, which, by the way, is stipulated, of course, in the original contract. And that information is to be presented this evening. So now the question at hand is, do we continue with this man's proven claims of hand-on economic development expertise, or go back to our old ways of complaining that Monte Vista just never recovered from the 2008 recession? Many will still want more proof, and I do not doubt that Mr. Douglas, should he choose to continue work here, will continue to provide the requested data for existing, pending, proposed, and potential enterprise in our town. And many will still want more proof, et cetera, et cetera. Is some of this due to the expanding national economy? Somewhat, yes. But I didn't. Is that somebody's phone, or is that? Oh, no, I got 17 seconds. Is some of this due to the, yeah, very, very possibly, but this is docket started by who was in the White House. The federal tax cuts created a positive environment for business growth, and that's what's needed. So let's not sit on the shore and wonder why we don't, well, I can't do that. I'll explain that later, but there is good reason for pursuing where we're at right now. Thank you.
Okay, good job.
I think that's the fastest I've ever heard you talk.
Got a great punch.
Margot Alexander.
Council, Mayor. I'm Margot Alexander, and this is the subject again with Mr. Douglas. And I just want to state at the beginning, I was totally behind you because I thought finally we have a person who knows what he's doing, who has contacts, and who can move forward. We've given you 6 months of time to do it, and I know I've run my own business, I've been there, I know it takes time. So my main concern is that being a person working for the city, I expect reports to come in. I talked to XYZ companies, they said yay, they said no. I'm working with this, we need more information. I haven't seen that, whether it's been there, I don't know, but I haven't seen it. So that is a concern of accountability, of what is going on. We need to know because the council may say, you know, we could help with this because we could do this and this as a city, so you two need to work together. Having said that, I personally have not seen a retail business in town that's new, that brings in tax dollars. I know there's some service industries you've brought in, which is good, but we need tax dollars to come into the city. So hopefully that is going to be presented, but that is a concern I have. And I do not think that as we are limited in funds, I don't think we have the money to pay you what you would like to be paid. I don't think we need to go in the hole for that. I know we need to work together, but I think that is a problem. The other thing that has come to my attention is there's a rumor going around. I hate rumors, and I would present it to y'all, hopefully to say yay or nay or whatever, that the theater is going to be run by you. This is a rumor I've heard. And I tell you what, Carolyn will quit if this happens. Carolyn and her board and her volunteers have done an excellent job keeping our movie theater in town. It is a wonderful establishment. I hope the rumor is wrong. But this is just things that are out in the community that is going around. And I just thought the council should be aware of what is happening. So I want this town to grow. I love this town. I want to see it improve. I want to see it done in an ethical way. So please keep that in mind. You're the council. Thank you.
Have any more comments? Okay. We'll move on to ordinances. I believe that's you, Forrest.
Yes, sir, I'll be happy to take that one if I get my technology caught up.
We have IT guys here who can help you.
They pretty much told me I'm beyond help, So good evening, Mayor, Councilors. This evening, for your consideration on second reading, is Ordinance 888, an ordinance to amend Monte Vista Municipal Code, Section 2, Administration, to create a new section of code, adding Article 12 in its entirety, Article 12, Code of Ethics. So as we previously discussed and you passed on first reading, this would be create an actual codified Code of Ethics for the City Council and the Council's appointed board and commission members. I don't know if you all have any additional questions off of this, but certainly I'd be happy to answer them, and also staff would recommend that you pass it tonight on second reading.
You guys all have time to look at it?
I did.
Any questions on it?
It reads very well. I think the staff did a lot of hard work on it, being put together. Because they started from ground zero.
It's very good. Appreciate it. Well, I move we approve ordinance number 888, aimed an ordinance to amend Monte Vista Municipal Code, Section 2, Administration to create a new section of code, adding Article 12 in its entirety, Article 12 Code of Ethics, on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept ordinance number 888. An ordinance to amend Monte Vista Municipal Code, Section 2, Administration to create a new section of code, adding Article 12 in its entirety, Article 12 Code of Ethics. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Elcourt?
Aye.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good. Do you want to go with the budget one? for me?
Yes, sir. I'll start that, and our finance director, we're gonna tag team that. So you have on your dais this evening a ordinance to consider on first reading approval of the FY 2019 budget. The budget is presented to you tonight per your direction and the charter. This budget is submitted in compliance with Section 53 of the Monte Vista Municipal Charter. And this is commonly known as the annual general city estimate for the 2019 fiscal year. This budget per charter sets forth a detailed estimate of the probable expenditures of the city government for the next ensuing fiscal year for all purposes, and also an estimate of the probable income from fines, licenses, water rents, and all other sources of revenue of the city. I do want to thank our finance director, Jenny Sines, as well as our department heads and you, the council, for working through this. Budget is, depending on your perspective, fun, interesting, or a dreaded task. And so it's all of those things. I think we put together, particularly with working through the council and the management team, a budget that meets the needs of our citizens and our employees. And hopefully you will adopt that on first reading this evening. I'll turn it over to Jenny to kind of go through the particulars.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So as Forrest said, we're here for the first reading of ordinance number 890, an ordinance adopting a budget and appropriating sums of money for the city of Monte Vista, Colorado for the calendar year ending January 1st, or beginning January 1st, 2019 and ending December 31st, 2019, I'm sorry. As Forrest said, he's proposed the budget to this governing body, and whereas upon public notice, said proposed budget is open for public inspection, and said notice advises that the proposed budget would be taken into consideration at this regular meeting of City Council of the City of Monte Vista, Colorado. The 2019 budget for the City of Monte Vista as submitted and herein summarized by fund. Section 2, the estimated revenues for each fund are as followed. General fund revenues are estimated at $3,142,103. The Conservation Trust Fund revenue, $45,350. Urban Renewal Authority revenue, $81,000. Airport Grant Fund revenue, $349,167. Kid Connection Fund revenues at $204,500. The City Service Water Fund, $910,100. City Service Sewer Fund, $922,700. The Capital Improvement Fund at $372,000, and the Capital Project Fund of $100,750, for total revenues for 2019 estimated at $6,127,670. The following sums are hereby appropriated for each fund as expenditures. General fund expenditures in the amount of $3,178,300. Conservation trust fund expenditures at $161,000. Urban Renewal Authority, $98,700. Airport grant fund, $355,644. Kids Connection Fund, $180,350. City Service Water Fund, $1,098,598. City Service Sewer Fund, $1,633,632. Capital Improvement Fund, $609,372. Capital Projects Fund at $100,000 for a total expenditure for 2019 of $7,415,596. It is hereby declared that this ordinance is necessary to the immediate preservation of public peace, health, and safety, and due to the necessity for mill levy certification to Rio Grande County, Colorado by December 15th, 2018, shall take effect and be enforced from and after final passage. Introduced, read by title, and passed at this first reading, first day of November 2018. Any questions?
Yeah, can I ask, probably it's elementary, but this is a departure from the last discussion that we had about when we were 40 or 50,000 apart, and I'm sure that's involved in the fund balances is where that difference comes from, but maybe you can explain it.
So you're talking about the difference between revenues and expenditures?
Exactly.
So if you'll recall in our meeting the other night, we focused on the general fund and getting that deficit down. It came down to 36,000. If you'll notice on the general fund, our revenues are at 3.142 and expenditures are at 3.178.
Right.
Your large difference is coming from your city service enterprise funds of the water and sewer, where we discussed necessary capital improvements.
You're right. I understand that. I move we approve ordinance number 890, an ordinance adopting a budget appropriating sums of money for the city of Monte Vista, Colorado for the calendar year beginning January 1, 2019, ending December 31, 2019, at first reading.
Second that.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, you can tonight elicit any public comments if anybody wishes to speak with the same 3-minute limitation, if anybody has any comments on the draft budget.
Okay. So, if we have any public comment on this? Yes, sir, I would. Please.
Jason Renz. My question is, how many years of deficit spending can you afford before our fund balances are diminished or minimums?
Well, actually, our fund balance in the general fund is healthier than it's been for the last 4 years. We actually increased the general fund balance this year. We have a minor amount of deficit spending, but actually we ended up, through our expenditure practices in this year, coming in under our budgeted expenditures, so the fund balance did increase substantially over what it was projected to be at the start of, at the start of FY 2018. It was actually higher than we had projected. And so it's still higher, and we actually are above, so for 2 years now, above the best practices threshold of 15% general fund operating reserves. To ask the question, how sustainable is that? In the long term, it's not highly sustainable. We did talk in the budget meetings about the fact that we are going to have to look at things very carefully. In the water and sewer funds, The expenditures there, the sewer fund does have deficit spending down to a level, of course, but we have a threshold level there that we've set of $3 million, knowing that we have the upcoming issues with wastewater treatment. And then the water fund is down close to $1 million, and that's pretty close to the threshold we want to have there for emergency preparedness and such. So I hope that addresses your question, but we certainly know.
The general, I asked how many years you could deficit spend. I understand the capital improvements, you're just trading cash for capital. That's not necessarily deficit spending. Deficit spending is pulling out of your general reserves to finance operations. How many years can you deficit spend at this level before you meet that minimum reserve?
Roughly, I will say roughly, it really depends on sales tax performance. We know that we have issues with the Gallagher Amendment and property taxes. I'd say there's a maximum of 2 more fiscal years where we could maintain that best practice level, and that's our goal. So it's 2 years at the most.
Is there anybody else? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor.
I would like to say something, Mayor. I still disagree with the budget in the general fund not being balanced. Again, I agree with what Forrest said. We've looked at the numbers. I talked to him again. And personally, I believe that instead of deficit spending out of the general fund, that we should be looking at adding amount to it to protect the community and our city for the very near future. And I am fine with what you're doing with the water and the sewer fund. But I do believe that the general fund needs to be balanced. And these are going to be hard decisions, and they're not going to feel good. And it's not the staff's position to make cuts to services. That's going to have to come from council. And it won't feel good, it won't be comfortable. You're not going to like the chair you're sitting in or the shoes. But that's part of the responsibility that we took on as council.
I'd agree with that, and the comment about deficit spending certainly cannot continue. We're on a short fuse with that, there's no question about it. Things have improved over the last several months, and it's a very tough call. We could, for the amount that we're talking about, balance that, and we may discuss that even further to see what can be done. It's not a huge amount, at least in terms of the city budget, to do that. I will add this, that there is only one way to fix a problem like this, and it's not from, well, partly obviously you can cut costs, and we have a staff working in this city that is very aggressive about that. We don't have any loose goose spending going on like in a federal budget where if you don't spend it, you're going to lose it on your neck. It doesn't work that way at all. It's very strenuous efforts. But the only strong, sustainable, long-term solution to any situation like this is to increase the revenues. And the only way you increase revenues is not by applying for grants, not by raising, raising taxes maybe, but the only sustainable, useful, worthwhile effort to increase revenues is to bring business and stimulate business in this town. And that is a long-term process, obviously, but business does produce wealth. There is no way of getting around that. There's several, we always talk about sales tax with business. Yes, there is increased sales tax But let's add to that increased jobs, new families in town, increased event participation, increased event budget and revenue, other businesses coming into town, population growth, increased property taxes, increased property taxes meaning more people paying property taxes, so let me clarify that. Increased potential for bigger business and manufacturing, improved town environment, increased tourism, improved infrastructure, roads and safety, et cetera, et cetera. There is a lot to be said for developing business in a community, and it's not just sales tax. That's what we need to pursue.
Yes, sir, Mr. Spillman.
Taking just a minute to get up here.
We'll wait to start your timer when you get there.
I'm appearing here because I represent industrial water users on the Rio Grande Basin Roundtable. And in the year 2014, I chaired a subcommittee preparing the M&I part of our basin plan. Forrest and Jason served on that committee. I expect that we'll be doing that again this year, at the end of this year or early next year. And there is an aspect to your income expense picture that should be mentioned, because it is literally buried out of sight, and that's with regard to our water and sewer systems. When we did that study in 2014, we found that Monte Vista, like most of the towns in the valley, had systems, both water supply and sewer systems, that were woefully inadequate and getting worse. And I expect that that may be the case still today with regard to Monte Vista. So I'll be coming around and talking to Forrest and to Rob about this, because I think that's it. Even though you can say we can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and come up with a balanced budget, you need to recognize that our water and sewer system may be still, correct me if I'm wrong, Forrest, may still be in need of considerable capital improvement.
The wastewater system, absolutely, and that was when I was speaking earlier, that $3 million in the sewer fund is the base threshold that we need as a reserve to work towards that issue.
I guess basically what I'm saying is here, don't ignore the 800-pound gorilla that you as the city council are facing here with regard to the long-term future. And eventually what happens, unfortunately, is that these repairs and updates and improvements become so expensive that people can no longer afford to live here. That's the thing I want you to be concerned about. Thanks. I will now retire slowly to my seat.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, we still have a motion and a second to accept of the first reading. Ordinance number 809. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Segola?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
No.
Counselor Ellithorpe?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Well, we know we gotta tighten this up, so, no from me on first reading.
This motion does pass 3-2, 3 being yes, 2 being no.
I guess my next question is there anything you need from me in the before our next reading?
I don't believe so. Is anybody else? Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate the time you spent on it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Forrest, you ready for the next ordinance? I like ordinances.
So Mayor, Councilors, in front of you this evening, you have ordinance number 891. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Monte Vista, Colorado, amending Monte Vista Municipal Code, Chapter 12, zoning, to allow for the creation and operation of RV parks within the city limits. So there was discussion with this council, I'm not going to say how many months ago, but a number of months ago, about this particular topic. We actually do have a party that's interested in developing an RV park. Those kind of came together nicely. But the city lacked any usable regulations on RV parks at all. In fact, while it was kind of generally contemplated, super generally in the code, we took the council's direction that if we were going to do that, we needed to have an ordinance that regulated RV parks. So this ordinance would amend the general provisions of Chapter 12, Article 1, create a new definition for, well, two new definitions, one for what a recreational vehicle is, and then what a recreational vehicle park means. And I'll probably just read those two definitions so they kind of set the stage for that. Recreational vehicle means a camping trailer or tent trailer, which is a folding structure construction of canvas, plastic, or similar water repellent material. Motorized camper, motorhome, recreational conversion van or bus, pickup camper, tent, or travel trailer. It does not include mobile homes, manufactured housing, or any of those things which are defined elsewhere in the code. And a recreational vehicle park means land used or intended to be used, let, or rented for occupancy by vacationing and transient campers traveling by automobile or otherwise, or for occupancy by tents or other movable or temporary sleeping quarters of any kind, together with automobile parking spaces and incidental utility structures and facilities required and provided in connection with the use. Once again, this definition shall not include sales lots where unoccupied trailers are parked for inspection and sale. So clearly an RV park. Now, I didn't invent all the stuff in this ordinance. I actually got samples off of the CML listserv. I kind of put a thing out there, and I got about 5 or 6 different takes on them, although they all were fairly similar. This would, in the zoning section, create zones where RV parks could occur. It creates very specific lot sizes, building heights. They have to have a final development plan that is approved by the city council. So it's not an administrative plan. Actually, under our current process, that plan would go in front of the planning commission. They would review that to make sure that it meets both our code. RV parks are also regulated by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, or CDPHE. And so our regulation coupled with those, whatever developments planned or proposed would have to meet those requirements from the planning commission before to the city council for your approval. It requires a pre-application conference with the city manager, who in this case acts as the zoning officer. Then there's a preliminary development plan that has everything, including topographic character, proposed land uses, how large it's going to be, if there's any streets required. That would also involve the Public Works Director as we went through the infrastructure needs and the CDPHE regulations on what is applicable as far as any kind of waste disposal, those kind of things. It's highly regulated by the state, and I usually don't say this, but it's nicely done and very prescriptive. As I said, it would go in front of the planning commission, and if the planning commission recommends or carries it forward to the city council would hold a public hearing that would follow all of our prescriptive things of notifying residents within, help me out, Anita, 500 or 300?
300.
300, thank you. So public notice and posting on the property, and then once that public hearing was held in front of the city council, then any errors, omissions, or other things which need to be corrected would come back, and then there would be a final development plan, which again would go through at least the city council review process. If there were substantial changes, we would take it back to the planning commission. It's got in the code some very tight specifications. And of course, then they require a building permit and all those things that a normal development would have. And it also farther down in 1223-140 restricts the amount of changes that can be made to the RV park once it has final approval. So that's basically it. You know, some communities that I got the response from have active RV parks. Most of them do. One of them didn't. But basically this creates an opportunity for us in a number of areas. In that, one, we have someone who's interested in doing this. Two, the Sky High Master Plan, the previous one, and now we're moving forward on that, and I'll address that in my report tonight a little bit. That also contemplated the same thing, which is interesting to me because the last time the plan was done, that actually wasn't allowed in the city. This would then, whether there's a private development or not, would preserve that opportunity for Sky High Park as well. So we get that put into our code, and then we can, you know, see if we have a developer or if it's in the Sky High Park, or if somebody else comes along. I know when I was first here, there was another idea in the city limits, or actually would have had to been annexed for an RV park, but obviously we've discussed the economic benefit of having one, getting people to stop in our city with their RVs, and coming downtown and, you know, patronizing our businesses. So I was really kind of glad that, you know, you all have brought that up, and then we had a developer. I was like, great, this is a good time to do it. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, and I would recommend the council approve this on first reading this evening.
I do have probably a procedural question. I have been remiss in going through this with everything else going on. I have not reviewed it. I'm definitely in favor of the idea, something that we need to do. As I understand it, we could approve this on first reading and then review to make changes.
Oh, absolutely, Counselor. So
that's my thought.
If you approve it tonight on first reading, you can go back and look at it, and if you find something in it that's you have questions about, we can discuss those, and certainly staff can make those amendments for second reading, or we can bring it back at the next council meeting, and you could table it at second reading and discuss additional amendments or additions to it. So, yeah, it's totally modifiable. And then, you know, I'll go back to the thing that I say about ordinances is that in and of themselves, they're not written in stone either. So the nice thing about ordinances is that most of your ordinances can be modified by resolution. So if we find something we went, wow, you know, we didn't think of that particular thing, we can, and I actually just thought of something that's procedural that we might want to throw in there. But we can bring those back and make those changes.
I move to accept on first reading ordinance number 891, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Monte Vista, Colorado, amending the Monte Vista Municipal Code Charter 12 zoning to allow for the creation and operation of RV parks within the city limits.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept first reading of ordinance number 891. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Monte Vista, Colorado, amending Monte Vista Municipal Code Chapter 12 zoning to allow for the creation and operation of RV parks within the city limits. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Ellipart?
Aye.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Forrest. Contracts, agreements, and leases. Mr. Douglas.
I gotta be honest, when we first started this, I didn't think I'd be up here this often, but here we are. So I didn't know that you were gonna have a copy of the contract with you, so the first page basically is a copy of just the scope of the agreement and the terms, just so that we were on the same page, because some people were saying that I wasn't reporting correctly or doing that, so I just wanted to make sure to clarify what I'm supposed to report to you guys, and that is in basically under number 2, the term, what I'm supposed to report. So we'll go right into that. First one is that you guys asked for business owners and testimonials, and so I've written a few of those, obviously with the approval of the people that asked me to submit those, and those are all there for you guys to read. If it's all right with you, I won't read those. If I could skip through that, if that's okay. Okay. So on metrics, you guys asked for metrics on online training. So we have 52 registered students on the online curriculum, which is a 10% increase over our last report. And they all have the opportunity to leave feedback, because you guys asked for a way for them to leave feedback. So they have a way to leave feedback on the courses, and so far we've not received anything less than a 4-star rating, 4 out of 5 stars on the rating system through the online courses. Then you guys asked for metrics on the chat feature. Now this one was interesting. We tried several different software products out there, and really it came back to Facebook Messenger was the best one. So as long as people are a part of the local business assist group, Facebook group, they can ask questions. A lot of times they'll ask questions in the Facebook group, and about 25% of them will actually go into Messenger and private message me those questions. Now the 5-minute benchmark I'd like to leave on there. That was a benchmark that I set for ourselves. I thought it was something that was really important. If somebody had a business question, nothing I hate worse than a slow response, 24, 48-hour response. And so I always wanted something that was faster and more immediate. And so being able to do it with Messenger, obviously I have it on my phone and I can answer anybody's questions within minutes of getting that. So that's been working pretty flawless. And like I said, about 25% of them, the Facebook group, will message me privately. So you guys asked for metrics on that. So I added that. And I know that we've had a lot of discussions with, I didn't realize it was going to stir up so much stuff here, but I did a little bit of research. I did not include this here because I just wanted to throw this out there, but a municipality or a city is in essence a business, right? I mean, you have a certain amount of money coming in, a certain amount of money going out, you've got to budget it. Now, an average business spends about 7 to 10% marketing its business. You guys don't need to do that because you're a municipality and you are not selling a product, so to speak. So I did some research, and an average municipality spends about 3 to 5% of their budget on what I do. is business headhunting, creating new business, filing for grants, things like that. And at this point in time, you guys are spending about 1.5% on that. Just to put that in perspective for everybody. So 3 to 5% is about normal, and you guys are at 1.5%.
3 to 5% of revenue? City revenue?
Yeah, your general fund.
The general fund.
Yeah, so 3 to 5% of the general fund is normally spent, and that means like hiring a full-time staff member or a couple of full-time staff members to handle, business development, coaching, or not coaching necessarily, but mostly business development, resources, and grant writing, applying applications for grant writing, working with economic development, or URA, things like that. So that all falls under that topic. And again, when I did the research, it was about 3 to 5% is about average. And you guys haven't spent, at least from what I understand, you guys haven't spent that much in years and years, and now we're at 1.5%. So we're still way under the norm, but we're getting there.
So from those numbers, that 3 to 5%, what size municipality are you referring to?
Any size.
Or
That's
any size?
it's their general fund budget. Yeah.
That's across the state?
Yeah. So I called some of the cities that I've worked with in the past. I've called like Adams County. I've called Frederick, Firestone, Central City. Those are all cities I've worked with in the past on various like events and stuff like that. So I already had a relationship with them. So I called them and asked, and they told me where I could go find more information online. And so I just did a little bit of research on that. So, and then since there was such an uproar about the buildings that we've taken over and helped get those rented out, you guys have asked me to come up with an itemized list of what we spent on those. And so the PD building, we've spent about $7,130 on the building, so roughly $7,200 on the building. And that was just for, let me put that in perspective, that was just for the one tenant that's on the end. That does not include all the upgrades that I still have to do for the rest of the building. That was strictly to get one tenant in, one building. So you can see that the ROI on that's gonna be about a year. So that should squash any ideas that I'm taking advantage of the city there. So, and that's praying that nothing else goes wrong with that building in the next 12 months. That's strictly on that. So, but again, that is what you guys asked me to report to you guys according to our terms. Is there any other questions, or is there anything else I can answer for you?
Do you have any statistics on any of the other buildings?
No, that one seems to be the big one that everybody was.
There wasn't any major expense?
No, well, I haven't done all the major expenses on those yet. I mean, I still got roof repairs. I just had a roofer over looking at the nice big water fountain pouring in the old print building. Yeah, I'm thinking about putting the water feature in there with the size of that leak. But yeah, no, I've just gotten quotes on those, and honestly, I'm just waiting to decide whether to move forward with this or not, because I wanted to throw this out to you guys. If this is a problem, I'll be more than happy to return the building back to the city council, and you guys can take it over from there. My whole intention with this was not to take advantage of the city. My whole intention was to get these buildings filled and get people motivated, get people moving in. I feel like I've done that, as I've sure caused a stir, but it was never my intention to take advantage, and I don't think that those reports show that I'm taking advantage in any way.
I'm curious, do you have any other things in the offing that you're working on as far as I know you do, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you can talk about those things very openly, but I just think it's kind of a nice
Well, and,
confirmation.
you know, and there's some interesting things that are happening because, again, I avoid politics like the plague. I'm sorry, but I get in there and I get on it and I get to work. If I had to focus on this and doing all my reporting and spending all this time doing this relationship thing back and forth and showing proof of all my work, I'd never get anything done. But the fact that I was able to get in there and you guys gave me 6 months to just run with it and take off, yeah, we've made leaps and bounds over what's been done in the past, at least from what I've understood from your guys' feedback. Now, you know, there's several conversations I'm having with other businesses. I've even working with businesses that are not in the city because they're looking to expand and they've got 20-some employees. Just because they're 2 miles outside the city limits doesn't mean I shouldn't be working with them, right? So, according to the contract, I shouldn't be, but I do. Because, again, they're employing Monte Vista residents. And I'm trying to convince them to move to a building in town. And so they need to expand. And so I was trying to find buildings that would fit their, suit them that were closer inside the town. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm working on. We talked about the tech school. The paper did a background check on me. I've gotten calls from people that I haven't talked to in 20 years. They've done their due diligence on that. Businesses I've sold a long time ago. Those people are still speaking favorably of the deals and how that all went down. And I really don't know what else I can provide or do other than just get back to work. I feel like I've spent a lot of time on this, reporting stuff, and inviting people in to speak and doing all that, and I'd rather spend it bringing in more businesses, because that's what I'm passionate about. I mean, we've got things working. We've got a lot of empty buildings still that we need to fill. A lot of things that get repaired. A lot of buildings that we need to get them up to snuff, get new windows in them, get new faces, new paint jobs. I mean, there's a lot of things we still got to do. We're just working it as fast as we can. I personally, again, I've talked to several people, and I don't know anybody that's done this many businesses in this short amount of time. Yes, they're not retail, they're not all retail businesses or what have you, but I worked with what I had to work with as fast as I could to get as many in here as I could, and I feel like we're doing that. So.
Yeah, I've been around business most of my adult life, and that is an unusual achievement. And I've talked to many of those people in those businesses and gotten a positive response. There was a question, I had never heard anything about this, but Margaret, you brought that up.
Oh yes, the theater? No, I don't know where that. There's all kinds of rumors that flying around this place about me, and I'm sorry.
I didn't think so.
I have no idea. And my wife would kill me if I took over another business. She would just literally kill me. So no, I have no idea where that one came from. So.
Somebody needs to tell Carolyn that. That would be appreciated.
Okay.
I'd be more than happy to tell her, and I'm actually kind of surprised that she would be so upset if I was to help her out. But, because she has asked me for my advice, so that's kind of surprising. But I'd be more than happy to tell her. No, I have no interest in running the theater.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question, Forrest. You were the one that was discussing what was needed based on the contract and all of that, and you've seen what was supplied here. Is that satisfactory from your perspective? I mean,
it answers the questions or the data metrics that are described in the current contract. Yeah.
Okay, because it seemed fine to me, but I wanted to just make sure that was okay.
Well, and again, you got to remember, this is new for both of us. And so the reporting has been different. I came in and reported numbers, and then I was, and then it was said that, well, numbers can be skewed, so then I came in and reported differently, and then we asked for numbers again. So I'm totally fine with that. I'm just saying that we're just trying to figure out how best to do the reporting, because this has never been done before. So if you guys want something completely different than this, I'll be more than happy to do this. But the only thing I do ask is, please don't ask me to bring people in to vouch for my credibility anymore, or vouch for that stuff. That is embarrassing. I really don't like doing that. I don't like bringing people in here parading and asking them to speak good of me. That's just not cool. So I just ask that you don't ask me to do that anymore, please.
Well, that is part of the contract that you signed, that there would be business testimonial.
Yeah, and I wrote those down. But you asked me to bring them in because...
No, at that session, I think I said I would have liked to have heard more.
Yeah, you wanted to hear from them, so I brought them in. So I'm just saying, I really didn't like doing that. And, they're business owners, they're busy too. I'm hoping that just saying something is fine, is reporting enough.
In my opinion, I think we actually need a written report that includes all the matrix and the data, so that I'm not trying to write it down and writing it down wrong. And then if people are asking me questions, I'm giving them incorrect information. So if we get a written report.
Which is this, right? Are you fine with this?
No, the numbers that you're talking about 52 online courses and four-star ratings and Facebook Messenger, I think that kind of data and metrics, it's a spreadsheet report, and I think
what do you want in the spreadsheet? I don't understand. I wrote that there's 52 people that registered. Putting that in a Excel spreadsheet is no different than putting it on here, I don't think.
And I honestly think, Ron, that we as a council have a responsibility to go and visit with business owners that you've worked with. I agree with you. It's a little offhanded to have to bring people in to vouch for you. And I think that we as a council, it's our responsibility to go out and talk to business owners and talk to people in the community. That's part of what we do. That's part of our job. And I agree with your idea, and personally I think this is fine. I think it's a fine report, and I think you've satisfied the questions that I certainly had.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think going out and talking, I've had a lot of business owners come to me, and they're not happy, and they're not happy with the amount of money that Monte Vista's spending, because...
You're not spending very much at all.
Well, for Monte Vista, we've spent $33,000. And we are, our general budget is at a deficit of just about that much right now. And frankly,
out of that $33,000, excuse me a minute, out of that $33,000, you've gotten a potential of 10 new businesses in 6 months, which nobody else in the history that I know of has ever been able to do here.
But we only have, to date, we've got 3 business licenses.
No, we do not. We have more than that. And partly it's because of the people that you're talking to that we don't have more. Yeah, I'm getting held up by URA. I'm getting held up by people going around calling businesses that I said that I worked with and stirring pots with them and making. I have never seen in my life. I can sit down and have lunch with my wife and have people come up to me and start blabbing about rumors that they've heard, or taking over theaters, or I'm trying to take advantage of the city. And trust me, you are not paying me nearly enough for what I'm doing.
Well, there of new businesses, brand new. There are 3 business licenses issued. And one of the assists is a tax-generating business. I don't know about Wise Bounty. I don't know if they're an online company.
Right.
But there's not a tax report for them yet.
They just started. Give these guys a break. I mean, how many businesses have you helped?
Well, I think the city
Sir,
helps
you
a
know
lot.
you work for these people, you might be a little more respectful.
I think
This is your boss you're talking to, please. That's all I'm asking.
I have been tore apart on this stand. I don't know how many times, and how many people have sat here and questioned my credibility.
That's your job, man. I have a boss. You have to ask her the questions, you don't have to.
I am answering the question.
Please, just be a little more respectful, that's all I'm asking.
Okay, well, I've got another question.
Sure,
On the lease for the Guslow building,
yes.
I'm curious, you had tenants in the building in July. The lease was not signed until September 1st.
Correct.
Did they pay rent in June and July?
Yes.
But you didn't have legal access to that building.
Well, I did have access to the building, yes. But we had to rewrite the contract a couple of times before it was done the way you guys were happy with it. So they were already in the building at that time.
This is the only contract I ever saw. I didn't see a previous one that we were not happy with.
Well, there were a number of, to answer that, Counselor, there were a number of drafts, that we worked on with the city attorney. And so the initial drafting period really was, the proposed date was July 1st. And we had some issues, we had some discussions about, could there be a purchase option, which there couldn't be on that particular building at this time. And that was the initial thing. So we did work through some revisions as we were going along.
Okay, but if you have a renter in a house, you don't let someone move in necessarily, or maybe it's not prudent to let somebody move in until you have a lease agreement signed. And certainly I think on the city's part, that's not prudent. And so if there are rumors flying around, and our citizens are upset and concerned and think that there might be something underhanded going on, I certainly think this isn't appropriate.
It's inappropriate?
I do.
Okay, well, you guys asked me to fill the building, and I was told that I would have access to that building come July 1st. PD came out, the city came out, the city workers came out, you guys cleaned out the building. We got it ready for the guy, his contract was up with the building he was in, he was moving in, and then I came over to Forest and they said we need to rewrite the contract. That's fine.
Well, I think you wait to put tenants in a building until you have a signed lease agreement.
Okay.
I guess I'm kind of old-fashioned that way.
Okay.
As I think a lot of residents are. I have a question about the contract that you signed with the city for your business.
Yes.
You gave us the first page, you presented the first page, which is the terms. Have you provided to the city the insurance requirements?
I was told by Forrest I did not need to do that because that was for a general contractor type aspect where I was having people working on the premise where I didn't have that.
Well, it says no later than 7 days after the execution of this agreement, the contractor shall provide the city with certificates of insurance evidencing the types and the amounts specified below. Now, I understand that you don't have people working for you, so workers' comp is probably not necessary at this time unless you hire people to work in your buildings, then that would be necessary. But there's general liability. It says for the operation, construction liability adequate to cover liability insurance hereunder with limits of not less than $1 million per person and $1 million per occurrence of property damage or personal injury. Then it says there should be automotive liability insurance proven. A certificate should have been presented. Same thing, the contractor shall carry insurance written on a comprehensive automobile form, ensuring all owned and non-owned automobiles with limits of not less than $500,000 per individual or $500,000 per occurrence of bodily injury and property damage if it's used in association with LBA doing business for Monte Vista.
And I believe I called you on that for us.
Well, and you indicated you had vehicle insurance, which, we do not have a copy of it.
But other than the vehicle insurance, you told me I didn't need the rest because I wasn't actually, that was actually written for like somebody that was working on your buildings or working.
So when you were working on the buildings.
Right.
Then you should have had that.
No, on your buildings. Once I signed the lease and took them over, I don't need to give you that. That's what you said. And that's what we agreed to. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So at the point when you started working the buildings, we should have had that.
If I was working on them under your ownership, but once I signed the lease and they were my buildings, I don't need to provide you that.
Well, you'd have to have insurance for the building.
I'm sorry, I need to have what?
Insurance for the building.
Oh, yeah, but I don't need to have, she was talking about liability, for workman's comp and all this, I don't need to do that.
Well, if you were employing workers to do the work, right? As opposed to a contractor or something, yeah.
That's not what that was not my understanding, but I'd be more than happy to figure that out, but again, if you guys want the buildings back, please, have at it. You can have the buildings back. I was just literally trying to do a good thing, but if it's not, you can have the buildings back.
And I understand that the political side is different for you. You've not done that before. But nonetheless, you have signed a contract and contracts with a government entity. And council is liable to make sure that these are upheld the way they're supposed to be.
And I believe I've done that.
To my opinion, no, they're not.
Okay.
I think we're in default on these contracts in a couple different areas.
Well, actually, the contract is not in place at this point.
Since it's on month to month. But we were in default, and it,
Mr. Poston, you have something to say?
Yes, my name is Jim Poston. I'm with the Urban Renewal Association. I am the chairperson of the Urban Renewal. And you mentioned there was a roadblock or other impediment to your access to what? Would you explain in detail what you mean?
Okay, so Urban Renewal has had a meeting about 117 Adams. And when I was at 117 Adams with you guys, I explained to you what it would take to get that building fixed. And afterwards, you guys had another meeting where I was not present and basically said that I didn't know what I was talking about and it needed a whole lot more money than I budgeted for. And you could not see how I was going to be able to accomplish what I said I was going to accomplish. And so far, I've accomplished everything I said I was going to accomplish. And my argument is if you got a problem with something I said, bring it to my attention. Don't sit there and tell everybody down the street that I don't know what I'm doing and I'm incompetent. Because you never gave me an opportunity to defend my position. Anyway, anything else?
Well, you guys have sat here and seen where we're at with budget, and your wife, so you know where we're at, and we do have an obligation to this community. After some conversations that I've had and heard, well, first I'll go to the rumor mill. It's terrible dead in this community. I will first and foremost say that when I got elected, it was spread around that I had been bought off, paid off, and was getting a monthly salary from somebody. And I will bogusly tell you that was a bunch of horse pucky. Okay? For people in this community to just start assuming, it's terrible bad. It's a bad rumor mill, and it happened.
It is very bad, yeah. Worst I've ever seen, but yeah.
Out of a conversation that I had here a while back, and for everybody to sit here and listen to this, you know, the rumor mill has been bad. You've heard them. We've all heard them. But the other part of that I look at, on the financial side of it, you see that we're struggling. We got to figure out how we're going to do this and make it right. On the other side of that, the amount of businesses that have come in, be they attached to you, 100%, 10%, 5%, whatever. But you made a comment in a meeting early about the rising tide sails all ships.
Yes, it does.
So where are we at with that? I mean, I think about that a lot, hearing all the conversation from the community. So is it that all part of it? I don't know that. I know the businesses that you have attached yourself to that are here, but the ones that have come in not knowing you, that if things are starting to change, there's a momentum going. So be a part of that. Something's happening, straight up. I mean, I feel like we're pretty business oriented. I mean, we've got some very well established businesses and businesses that are growing, and Fennell's one of them. They're doing real well as far as being able to take care of what they have to do. They have to increase their size. So, I mean, there's...
It's coming, it's
like a ripple effect.
Yes,
okay?
it's
So-
slow. It takes a little bit of time, but man, once we can get this going, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a machine, and then we're gonna have to be on the opposite end of this. We're gonna have to say, hey guys, we don't have room for that kind of business or this kind of, what do we want? And we can start cherry picking and being a little bit more selective. I see that, and I have a vision for that, but it takes time.
Well, I have a question for you, and Forrest and I talked about this, and I don't know if Forrest brought it up to you or not. You said you have a grant writer on staff. Now, one is
Yes.
that gentleman. So, knowing where we're at as far as the city financially, and we know that at one point in time there was supposed to be a grant written for that would, I can't remember, USDA?
Yeah, it was a USDA, and it was
Okay.
supposed to cover my bill.
Okay.
The problem, I know where you're going with that, so let me just, the problem with that is I did some research on that grant. I also called the person that submits that grant and sends that grant out. And they said they knew the person that was writing that grant, and our chances were near to slim for getting that grant.
And just a point here, are we talking about the Department of Commerce grant?
Forrest, I don't remember
Yeah,
which
so
one
it was US Department of Commerce grant,
Okay.
so,
Okay.
yeah. Not USDA, because I.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, did he say
Okay.
USDA? Yeah, sorry, yeah, it was in Commerce. But, yeah, it was near to slim, and, that we should be a little bit careful with who we select for grant writing, was what I was told. I didn't report that back to Forrest. You guys did what you guys needed to do there, but yes, I would like to apply for that as grants. Again, it's a little bit tough. I mean, you see how much you guys are paying, and now you want me to cover grant writing. I mean, you paid her to write the grant, or you were going to pay her to write the grant, and honestly, I felt like that should have come to us, and we could have written a grant, because I got 2 grant writers that I know that are proven on the staff, and we could have done it. But that's not the case. You guys voted to have her do it.
Prior to that meeting, I had no clue that you had a grant writer on staff.
Yeah, and I didn't, in all fairness to you guys didn't know, because I saw that writing on the wall that we were gonna need one. I contacted an old buddy of mine that worked with me on events that I did for Central City, where we used to do race events, car events, and he worked in Central City. I knew he was a grant writer. I asked him what he was doing. He said, not much these days, and so I snagged him. I said, hey, you wanna come work with us? And so he's helping with some of the reports. We've got some economic reports that we're gonna be working with. He's also the one that's helped me put together that software that we never even, we kind of glazed over that, which I'm shocked with, because that's the secret ingredient, is that software those people that own that company. This is a multi-billion-dollar company. They researched Monte Vista and what we were doing here, and agreed to sponsor that and give us that software so that we could reverse engineer every business in Colorado. I can now tell you every McDonald's, where it's at, what the population was when it broke ground, what the population, or what the traffic count numbers were. And so I can reverse engineer and plug those numbers into our traffic counts and our locations, and I can tell you exactly what businesses we should be chasing. But I'm not gonna give it to you. I can't give it to you on a month-to-month and not sure if I'm gonna have this next month or whatever. I didn't wanna burn that relationship with that company for that. Now, if we go forward, I'm all in. I'll be more than happy to share that software with you. Kevin calls me all the time, wanting access to that software because they quoted him $250,000 license a year for that software. And they're giving it to us. Guys, we're right there, we have it. But I can't in good conscience use it until I know that we're moving forward. It really is, that's the secret sauce right there. Because we can then tell you, I can tell you where Sonic is, why the Sonic is there, why it picked that spot. And we can reverse engineer every business model. It's crazy, the power of that data.
Fennell?
Fennell Garcia with Absolute Shine, and wow, I picked a good one to come to. I had no idea. I was here last couple times or whatever, and whether people realize it or not, whether anybody cares or not, it doesn't even really matter, but my wife probably still spends about an hour a day with somebody. Somebody's calling, somebody's asking questions, somebody's swinging by. So, asking how things are supposed to mesh. I don't know enough about that. All I'm saying is the time that is still there and the questions that are still being asked. And I don't know that side, so I'm not even going to go there. But what I'm saying is I told you guys that I knew that stuff was going to hit the fan pretty quick. And I don't think you've seen the end of it yet. And I don't know what's going to happen. But this is how I look at it. And if Mr. Douglas, Ron, I have nothing against Ron. I said this plenty of times. It's not his fault. He's a businessman. You guys are the ones that make the decisions. You guys got to figure out what Forrest and Ron are talking about and making sure those questions exactly about what Ms. Lorenz is asking, because I think those are legitimate questions. Those are the questions on the street. Now, with all of that being said, just through the grapevine, makes no difference to me, but I heard Mr. Douglas is a self-made millionaire. Okay, fine. Whether he is or isn't doesn't matter. But what puts all this to bed is buy those buildings and then you can lease them to whoever you want and then nobody cares. Period. Done. Right? Why are we leasing from the city and then subleasing to somebody else? Easy solution, buy them, get them leased out, nobody cares. If they do care, ain't none of their business then. Right now, it is the community's business. That's how I look at that situation. I just wanted to say that.
Any other comments?
We're done then, or should I sit down? Please? Or we can come out of water next time. Oh, hit it. I'm sorry, I forgot what you guys paid for. You guys paid for this.
Well, the commercial.
Yeah, the commercial, it's done. Oh.
Somebody want to grab the lights real quick?
Are they done?
Yes, sir.
Sorry about that.
the end.
That was very good.
It's totally I wanted fast, I wanted a short commercial.
What is the #1 driver for businesses and investors? Secure and profitable growth from their investments, knowing that their dollars are growing. The biggest challenge facing businesses and investors throughout traditional areas and cities in Colorado? Land. Real estate pricing is skyrocketing in saturated markets along the Front Range and virtually everywhere else. The San Luis Valley is Colorado's best kept secret. Nestled between two spectacular mountain ranges spanning over 8,000 square miles with high-speed internet throughout the entire valley, year-round recreation and activities abound. With the state's most fertile valley at the headwaters of the historic Rio Grande River, you'll find Monte Vista. Monte Vista delivers greater value on each dollar spent thanks to incentives which ensure profitability and the ability to keep those profits long-term and tax-free.
The entire city of Monte Vista is in in this opportunity zone. This is a federal designated zone, and it's said to be the largest economic development incentive from the federal government since the Homestead Act. Let's say that you're making an investment in an opportunity zone project. You have $1,200,000 portfolio, and $200,000 of that is capital gains. You can leave your $1 million investment, pull off the $200,000 of capital gains, and invest it in a Monte Vista project. That capital gain is not taxed for a period of 7 years. So you defer the taxes on that capital gain for 7 years. 15% of that tax liability is ultimately forgiven during that deferral period. And at the end of 10 years, that $200,000 now has a valuation of $1.2 million. You can pull out that entire $1 million worth of gain tax-free.
Outdoor activities in and around Monte Vista include hunting, fishing, hiking, biking, skiing, snowmobiling, a national park, and so much more. The most populated municipality in Rio Grande County, Monte Vista has steady and high-volume traffic as nearly 3 million cars pass through annually. Featuring great visibility with a small town feel and ready to grow, Monte Vista is an untapped market with prime real estate and tremendous opportunity.
Wow.
Nice.
So neat.
It's not bad for the budget you spent on that.
Right?
So, I'm gonna turn away. But, you guys asked for that, and, I recommended it, you guys said, let's go with it. You guys sent me a check, so I got it done, so. And again, it's not geared towards anybody other than, like, business owners or people that are considering moving down here to start a business. Those are the people I had in mind when I had this created, so that I can send it to the people that are looking at starting a restaurant in Denver where the rents are $12,000 a month. Hey, before you do that, consider this. And then I can send a video. Does that make sense? So that's kind of where I was going with that. So I hope it's to your satisfaction.
That's very good.
Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Bet.
We vote on the contract?
Back to the grant again.
Yeah.
Or something.
It's available, we can apply for it if you'd like. I'm not sure what the deadlines are. Do you remember, Forrest?
I think it was one of those that was kind of like every quarter.
Well, it was SBA and USDA, and I think they're quarterly.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can try and catch it. I mean, I'm not sure when the deadline is on that thing, but that's one of those things that, yes, put it in the pipeline, but don't depend on it. I mean, if it comes through, it comes through, but if that's what you're banking on, man, those things are just so hit and miss. That I would not invest my, I wouldn't put my future in getting one of those. If it comes through, it's just a bonus.
And I'm going to chime in here. I have grown up in Monte Vista, and I've watched businesses come and go, and I've owned businesses, some that were successful and some that failed miserably. And I did the research that Ron did about how much generally does a city or a municipality spend on grant writers and economic development. And yeah, we've given Ron close to $33,000. He's filled several buildings. It's a drop in the bucket compared to what most cities and municipalities have spent. And I think the beginning of this was some very good seed businesses. Just let's fill those stores up. Let's, we're not looking for the big box right yet. Let's get some growth going and put something in those windows and get something in a lot of those empty buildings. I also feel like there are bigger things coming down the turnpike that we may or may not know about, and I actually know several businessmen and who have talked to Ron, that Ron has worked with on some 160 buildings that are fallen down and dilapidated and in bad need of repair. And I think it's only the start of what has happened and what can happen. And personally, I'm out in the community. After teaching for 30 years in Monte Vista, there isn't people I don't know or have some kind of contact with, and I've heard very little negative. Do you know what everybody asks me? When's the sushi place coming? And that's what I get.
I ask myself that every day.
I know, me too. I'm not a fan of sushi, but that's what I get. And I'm not sure what Fennell's talking about, and I know there are some contract specifics that Kathy made some valid points with. I'm not sure what's going to hit the fan. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that from anyone in the community, from any of the business people I've talked to. It's all been positive. And yeah, there were some people with a little bit chapped at first. They were unsure of Ron, and I think he's gone around and smoothed those ruffled feathers, and I haven't heard anything negative about Ron. As a matter of fact, I've just pretty much heard positive things, and so I'm not real sure what Fennell's talking about. And I know we've got this deficit. We just okayed the first reading of a budget with the deficit. However, I think there are some places that we can massage that budget and that we can fill in some of those holes so we don't necessarily have that deficit. Nobody really likes to sign a budget with a deficit. That's not what anybody wanted to do. However, I don't think we as a community are going to move forward and fill that deficit if we don't continue to move forward with economic growth and development. And personally, I think Ron's done a fine job. I don't think he has anything to defend himself about at all. And I'm sorry, Monte Vista it is a rumor mill, and we hear them in here a lot. And I'm sorry people are that way, but I personally think you've done your job because they're uncomfortable. You're squeezing them, and you're making other businesses have to perk up and take notice of their practice and notice of what they're doing. And that's a good thing. You're doing what you were hired to do. That's what happens. And they may not like it, but that's the way it is.
say something, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Jason Lorenz. So you got a budget issue, you got this contract in front of you. You know how you know something's a priority? Is when you're willing to cut something else to make it a priority. This is your priority, that's fine now. But you have the ability to balance the budget by cutting elsewhere to make that happen. By simply passing it off and spending our savings, you're not making it a priority, you're just passing the buck. And that's what's happening from the federal government down to the cities throughout our nation. And someday, no, right, the shit is gonna hit the fan.
It will. You can't keep doing it. It's hard to see.
One of the elements involved in all of that process is where is that money going and what's it for? From a federal perspective, tax cuts have stimulated business and corporate growth, brought businesses back into this country that were gone. So granted, we're not talking about the federal situation. And has that had an effect on what's going on here? I really believe it has, to some degree. But here's the point. It's what's happened federally and what's starting to happen here is creating an environment. And I think that's more important than anything. But we need more than environment. Just because you have an environment, for instance, of good fishing in a particular lake does not fill your refrigerator with pike at all. You've got to have more, you've got to actually get in the boat and go out and get to work. Well, we've got a good environment potential here to work with, and we can sit on the shore and say, you know, well, gee, don't things look nice? Or we can actually get something going, which we've got the groundwork of right now, and not sit on the shore and hope that something happens. The point is that we've got an opportunity here to generate some return, the only way that return can be generated. And that is through, I hate, we keep using this phrase, it's economic development, call it what you like, bringing business into town, and I listed all the benefits of that. We can't, I've said it before, we can't do enough grants to build this town. What we need is businesses and families and development coming into this town. And if we're not willing to pay something for that, then everything else suffers. Something has to, yes, we do need to work on balancing the budget. If there's going to be an overage at all, and for God's sake, let it be for something that is an investment in the future of this community, which is building business. If we can knock out the other part and still maintain this, that's fine. I get grants to consider and whatever. But the proof is in the pudding, and if 6 months of this has generated this much activity, then it's either a tremendously good con or something real is happening here. And I've heard Ron talk. He's not that good a con. He's a down-home, folksy kind of guy that doesn't know, it's just, but he's had a background, people have gone back and checked his background. It's just, he's more than a nice guy. I passed by the other day, I was just driving down the street, saw his red truck, and I'm not going to say anything more without your permission. So, but I don't, about who you were talking to. If it's fine. It was just about an empty building that's been empty downtown for a long time, right there next to Charisma on the corner, owned by I guess local or whatever. In any case, what the discussion was, I said, I just pulled in to Australia. I wanted to say hi and see what's going on. Well, he had just gotten done talking to owner of the building, and the owner of the building has committed, am I getting out of line here? A substantial amount of money to repair, to fix up, to remodel that building, put it on the market. It's right next to Alta, and apparently that's the same owner. And this was, you know, maybe that's the only thing he's been doing all month, I don't know, but I haven't followed him around. I just happened to be driving by, and I know this guy is out knocking on doors and talking to people and stirring things up, and a lot of that comes back negative because people don't like being stirred up. But nonetheless, that was just one example. And right now, all it is a matter of finding a tenant for that building to decide how it's going to be remodeled and rebuilt. It's been vacant forever. And just a thought that just came up, and he and I have talked before, and like I said, I don't follow him around, but I do talk to businesses around town. Finally got some business cards that I made up, but nonetheless, so I can actually get some feedback from people. And like has been said here up till now, in some cases, all I've heard is the positive. The only negative I got was when I talked to B&B Hardware, and they have completely turned around and have decided to, yeah, maybe there's some sense to what this guy is talking about. Any case, enough said about that, but I just had to throw that out with your permission. I didn't know that was, you know, how much of that you wanted out. Anyhow, there's work going on. We're on the cusp of actually turning the corner. We've talked about economic development for decades. Now it's time to actually do something. Let's just suck it up if we have to. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but time to actually say, yes, this is, we're not talking about pie in the sky. We're talking about something we've got some actual empirical results about. So let's pursue it, let's get it done, let's move on. If it is a con, we'll know in the next 30 days, and I'll personally repent. But I don't, I haven't seen that so far. So I'm willing to pursue this issue and get this town where it should be, which councils prior to us have promised all along. And now we're actually seeing something. So are we better than they? I don't think so. We know less than they, that's for sure. All I know is that I can see the facts and the statistics and the actual empirical results, and that's what impresses me, being a businessman. So we need to vote on this?
So Gary. No, for the community, all this is all public record. So when the question starts coming up and all the rumors start, it's public record. They can find this out. So it's not, well, they said, and he said, and you know, like stipulations on the Goozle building enforced, I'll ask you to step in here to help me out. That because it's owned by the city, it has to be, is it 3 years? That it has to be.
Well, and the city attorney and I have had a discussion about that. You know, it actually hasn't been used as a, you know, police department moved out, but it hasn't had other use. So it's at least got to be 2 or 3 years before it can be sold as not a public building. As opposed to Valley Publishing, which is never a public building, and the ambulance bays, which actually, you know, the city got and the ambulance went down, and those really weren't a public building. The ambulance service provides a public service, but they are not a public entity as in the city. So those can be sold without question. In order to sell the old PD building, and I mentioned this before, in order to actually sell it would have to go to an election of the voters in its current state. Now, after it's had some amount of public, non-public use, i.e. businesses in there, then that can be a different, it could be a different situation.
That's all I have.
move that we renew this contract for the like term that it has been in the past for the like amount, with all of the stipulations that we've discussed and questions answered that have come up.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded. To go over the contract. Is there any more discussion?
Is it for a 6-month? Is that what you're?
Well, the term, I think, the like term was previously 6 months.
I believe we run month to month at the temporary because of our financial situation. Is that right, Forrest?
Well, you need to clarify that, Mayor. I mean, you went on a
Right.
month to month, you can renew it on a month to month or on a 6 month. That's the term of whoever's motion carries or goes forward.
I would amend my own motion to make it a term for 6 months. I really do not want to go through this every 30 days to, it's not that kind of an issue that can be dealt that way. I think 6 months is already cutting it pretty short. So if I can, I don't know if you want all that verbiage in there, but I could amend the motion to be for the term of 6 months. That was what it was intended when I said at a like term.
You didn't say that.
Yeah. So that's what I meant, at least, with 6 months.
Is there any more discussion?
Is the amount for the 4,000 original or for the month-to-month rate?
The 4,125 was the original
Yeah.
amount that rolled over into the month-to-month.
I may not have said that, the like term and amount.
Yeah, you said like
Did I?
term.
Okay, all right.
Any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Oliver?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
No.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Oh, I look at the budget. No for me, but that's because of the budget.
Motion carries with a vote of 3 to 2, 3 being yes, 2 being no.
Okay.
Clarify that, Mr. Mayor, if I could. So that was for a term of 6 months, that'd be effective this date?
Effective.
Okay, thank you.
That was my intent, yeah.
Hi again. So I'm back up here to present the September 30th, 2018 financials. As of September 30th, 75% of the fiscal year has elapsed. To start with, we'll go over the general fund as of September 30th. Revenues in the general fund were at 84% of the approved budget, or $2,439,138. The largest source of income continues to be the tax revenue, totaling $1,468,913. Expenditures in the general fund are at 67% of the approved budget, or $2,105,737. At this point, I would like to just, I spoke of it the other night in our workshop, but I would like to publicly say that our department heads have done an outstanding job this year of keeping you guys on track. And I say you guys because I didn't get to come on board, as we all know, until later in the year. So again, the staff that you have employed to do their jobs are doing their jobs the way that need to be done, and they are being fiscally sound and fiscally minded of what we need to do. In the general fund, revenues exceeded expenditures by $333,401, increasing the fund balance to $888,544, which is up from $555,143 as of December 31st, 2017. Again, I just want to point out that, what we spoke about the other night in the workshop, that revenues are going to level out and we're going to see it come back on track probably. That seems to be the trend. Moving on to the water fund, total revenues in the water fund were at 92% of the approved budget, or $828,326, with the majority of the revenues coming from the services that the city provides, which total $792,874. Expenditures at the end of September in the water fund were at 59% of the approved budget, or $670,194. As of September 30th, the unrestricted cash for the water fund was at $1,123,153. In the water fund, revenues exceeded expenditures by $158,133, which brought the fund balance to $908,717. In the sewer fund, revenues as of September 30th were at 53% of the approved budget, or $799,636, which the majority of that again relates to the services provided in that fund, totaling $739,126. Expenditures at the end of the month in the sewer fund were at 44% of the approved budget, or $805,505. As of September 30th, unrestricted cash for the sewer fund totaled $582,194, which is slightly greater than the month before of $558,718. In the sewer fund, expenditures exceeded revenues only by $5,869. This is a slight increase in the fund balance because, if you'll know, in previous months we had greater expenditures, so our fund balance in the sewer fund is actually up in September. It went from $3,930,273 up to it's at $3,930,273, up from $3,913,404. The other thing that I would like to point out in these financials is they do reflect the mid-year amendments that we did and passed in the September meeting, so that kind of helped even things out where they needed to be and gave us a better picture of where we were for the year. So, anything else? Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't envy you.
City manager's report.
Okay. So I believe I sent to all the council members a copy of the proposed RFP for the Sky High Park project. And I hadn't received any comments back, which was either good or bad. I don't know which it was, but I do want to send that out to the committee as a whole, and I'd actually like to do that tomorrow unless there's any objections, so they can see it and we can get that fire lit and get that process moving forward. In my report I had, and you're probably all aware of this by now if you read my report or otherwise, Councilor Johnson knows this, so the Planning Commission did consider a draft ordinance for chickens, the keeping thereof, and that was passed on for you all to consider. We would recommend to the council that you do hold a public hearing on the matter, and that was the Commission's recommendation at your meeting on November 15th. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then I have a kind of a question for you, which is an extension of the budget process tonight, or the budget discussions. So, you know, that was a 3-2 vote, and I heard the objections about, you know, the budget not being balanced, and, you know, honestly, as you all know, I'm not a huge fan of that either. When we had our last work session, I proposed 2 approaches to making further cuts. And if I receive, you know, and personally, I would prefer the approach that I go back to my department heads and managers and talk to them and see if we can get that down to 0, if that's the council's direction. We do have a work session scheduled for November 13th. And if that is your direction tonight, and you all need to tell me, we can work to get that down to 0. You probably saw I was over there scribbling away. Jenny's familiar with my methodology for doing that on budget stuff, and I think we can get there if that's where you'd like us to go. And we come back at that work session, explain to you, you know, where we propose to make the cuts to bring it to 0. I mean, I'll say, as I said in our work session, that we're in meat. You know, I don't believe there's any fat in this budget, but I do, you know, respect the notion that we have some difficult times ahead of us financially, and so being respectful of that, if you'd like, we can take that approach and bring that to the work session for you to consider. I kind of did some noodling, and I'll have to talk to my department heads a little bit, but I think we could probably get it to 0.
Well, Forrest, I appreciate that. And your department heads are awesome. I don't know of a better group of people who work as hard as they do with the limited amount of money that we have. I don't think it's up to them. I think it's up to council to decide what services we need to curtail to make the budget balanced.
Well, respectfully, I agree. If we're maintaining our current level of service, we can get it to 0. If you want to go beyond that, then that is actually the council's decision on what services, and that could be a discussion at that work session as well. What services are we not going to provide?
Well, I don't know what Rob can take out of his budget. I don't know what he can take out of his budget and continue to provide water, sewer, and streets to this community. I don't. And the equipment that's needed. And that's not fair to Rob. I don't think it's fair to Rob or Nita or the chief, because the chief works just as hard. Those police officers don't have near the equipment or the salary or the benefits that they need. And it is not their responsibility, it's ours. I'm happy to have you propose what you think is necessary, but I think the proof in the pudding lies here.
Oh, and I don't disagree with that. That's why I was saying we would actually, at that work session, this is what we came up with to get there. But I do think if we, you know, there is this discussion about services, because, you know, actually, as you mentioned quite well, so can Public Works provide all the services that they are right now for any less than what we put in the budget?
No. I don't know how Rob can do it.
As he just said, no. So then the question is, what do we not do? And honestly, there's a list of things that we do for the community that are expectations that other communities that I've worked in don't do.
And those are the kind of things that we need to talk about rather than nickeling and diming our department heads.
And I'm fine with that approach as well. So that's why I came up to say, what would you like to do?
That's what I would like to do.
I'd agree with that. You can get it to 0 without cutting services. Let's look at it.
So we'll bring you a proposal to
That's the total opposite.
Total opposite.
That's the opposite.
So you two are totally opposite at this point.
The proposals,
But you just said,
go ahead and do what you guys can tweak, but let's then bring it in here and bring all that information in so we're aware of it.
Perfect.
Right.
That's kind of what that's getting at.
And then sort of combine the discussion of what services can we possibly do without, I'm kind of like Kathy, I don't really think there's a lot that can be cut from budgets currently anywhere within the city itself. You guys work on almost, nothing. We can see what you propose, but I'd like to keep the other option open about services and things that the city provides that we might need to re-examine, and those are not going to feel very good to us, and the city isn't probably going to like it very well either. But I kind of think, I personally don't like being in a deficit budget. I don't think anyone does, but so at the work session, can we kind of talk about both of them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's
We will talk about it.
basically
Yeah.
what, I mean, I'm gonna take that as a guidance. We'll bring in some numbers, but I do think then department heads are gonna be there and talk about what does that number mean? And, we don't do cost accounting for our services, if you will. I mean, there's a cost of the services, but, we don't do project accounting. Like I build a subdivision and you have every element of that, what it costs, and you have that down really, really close. And a lot of services we provide, then we get into this discussion of, if we're gonna cut X, what does that mean? What are we not going to do? And I think that, that's a discussion well worth having. So we'll get some stuff together and we'll come, and I'm looking forward to having that discussion.
Did I misunderstand you when you said that you had scribbled out some ideas to where you could get the deficit to zero without
I do
cutting
have some
services?
ideas,
Did
Counselor.
I not hear you saying?
No, I did, and I have some.
That's all I'm saying.
So I do have some ideas which we'll bring to you, but I do want to talk to my managers and department heads before I say, hey, I just did this, and and we have had to do that in the past. I think the second year I was here was the most unpopular budget session with the department heads, for sure, because we, did the literal let's get out the red pencils.
Right.
And the finance director and I did that, and I will admit it wasn't collaborative, but at the time, because the prior year budget had a lot of revenue projections that weren't, I believe we've taken a very conservative approach. Those were not conservative and they weren't achievable. So we ended up having to put a couple $100,000 on the floor just to make the operations meet. So we're not in that situation here, but every dollar to the good is a dollar to the good at this point.
Right.
Anika is here, and every day I get these great emails from her where she got another donation or another thing, and it's like, yes, it's awesome, and they're not all huge, but they matter. And everything we can do to increase revenues or cut expenses at this point matters. It's always mattered, but we've actually gotten to a point with our projected year-end fund balances that's good. I feel pretty good about that, and if we can not spend anymore and save that, because the rainy day is close.
Okay, well, I'm confused. How can counselors sit here and say they don't believe in deficit spending, and yet we've just approved a contract for $24,000, 750 cents, but we don't have the money to spend?
That's part of the deficit that we're talking about reducing, which we're going to discuss, to get that reduced, but not by taking out, bringing revenue into the community. If there aren't ways to do that, then we're just going to have to find some. I don't know.
All right, well, I think I have my guidance there, and we'll go with that. I don't know if you have any other questions on my report. It's kind of short. We're working on some, and I'll give you my weekly tomorrow. We're doing some, there's a lot of work that's getting finished up, getting the fall, and some interesting things there, and administration of that's always fun. But the staff here does a really good job, and I was just saying in an impromptu meeting this morning, how lucky we are to have them. So, thank you.
Excuse me, Forrest. Ron needs approval on the final cut of that video so he can have the gentleman who made the video release it from council.
Oh, I forgot. We need to approve the payment.
No, the payment's already been made, he just needs final approval on the video.
And then I'll release the funds to him, and then he'll release the copyrights to you guys.
Oh, so you actually need to vote.
Perfect.
I just needed that you guys were happy with it, and I guess, I don't know what you guys want me to do on that, but I just like to get it okay that you guys, the commercial, and I'll send him the money and get the commercial rights to you guys.
I was thinking about relocating, I'd do it unless 73 passes, and then, of course, Colorado has said, we don't want your business. Anyhow, that's your problem.
Motion?
Do we need a vote?
Do we need a motion?
That'd probably be appropriate, yes.
Just keep in mind, you've already paid for it, you've already sent him the money. I just need to, okay to release it to him.
Right, I move that we okay the video as it stands so that Ron can release it and start to see the results.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded, we approval of, video, commercial? Commercial. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Ellsworth?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
It's the first I've seen it. Very good.
Nika? Tell us how Mother Goose is.
I'm really sad because I'm missing the Thursday night football game right now. I'm pretty sure if I was there, the score would be different. We're getting our butts kicked, but hey. All right, so I'll keep this pretty short and sweet. Averages are still about the same, 60 to 70. This week slowed down big time, I think, because of the change of the weather. Parents don't want to come out as late, so they're picking up kids either right after school or really early. I'm not gonna complain about that because it's been nice to have a little bit of a break and kind of refocus some energy. Our poker tournament ended up really well. We had about 24 players that evening. We had an amazing taco bar and the waffles were so amazing. I was really trying to get their caramel sauce recipe, but nobody wants to give it up. We wrapped up at midnight that night, so it went way later, I think, than anyone anticipated, but I think we all had a lot of fun, even though we were sitting there and our eyes were barely still open. We ended up with our last female standing, which happens to be a high school student at Monte Vista High School. Haley Hussman, she beat out her dad, Marty, who took second place, and then Counselor Johnson actually hung in there with them all night and came home with the third place trophy. So it was a really fun night. I'm working on getting all the thank yous out to sponsors and getting the actual final numbers. Alex is kind of going out of the country for a little bit, so he's working on what he can get me before he leaves. He'll get the rest of it and we'll get that all together when he gets back so we know what we're really looking at. And the next thing we really have coming up is, since we are in November, we will be looking at scheduling our 6th annual Thanksgiving feast. This was something I started when I came to Kids Connection because I had a large group of kids who, when we were like, how are you celebrating Thanksgiving? A lot of them were like, at the church, because that's all families could really afford. No one's doing a real family Thanksgiving. So we figured it kind of worked out really well for Kids Connection to put on a big meal. All the food is cooked by either Kids Connection or volunteers that don't know they're volunteers until I give them a phone call and say, hey, can you cook a 20-pound turkey and bring it by Kids Connection tomorrow morning, Mom, please, and Grandma? So we have that going. That will be the afternoon. It'll be Wednesday, November 21st at noon. We will only operate a half a day that day, just so we can get everyone there in the morning, have some fun and games, and then eat a really delicious meal before the whole weekend of never-ending meals. So if anyone would like to donate some food to be cooked by staff or would like to cook some food and bring it over for us, we would greatly appreciate any donations in that aspect. And I will have a list hopefully out by the end of next week with everything that we're looking for. A lot of those donations do come from my parents, though. They're really amazing when I put a list out, and you would be shocked at the amount that they actually give just because their kids enjoy our services so much. So with that, I received the video from the NRPA visit that we had this summer, and they had their production crew down, and they have put together a video with kind of giving you an overview of the NRPA grant that we received and the fun that they had with our program. So Nita has it for us, and we are going to hit play.
Are we sure we're ready this time? I hope so. Thinking about it. I was ready earlier.
It works just like my computer.
Park and recreation agencies serve a critical role in every community type. They offer recreational services, are on the front lines of major public health concerns, and connect people to physical activities and nature. Essentially, park and recreation professionals are role models, healthcare providers, and educators.
So this program provides them after-school homework help, it provides them safety, security, educational components like healthy living lifestyles.
So often we get caught up in the challenges in rural communities, but we forget to think about the very many assets that do exist in our rural communities. So we really need very viable, economically strong rural communities, and that's going to be good for all of us, urban and rural.
We're not only an after-school program, but we are a full-time summer program, and we're here when parents need us.
Pretty much it keeps them out of trouble, it keeps them off the streets, it gives them somewhere to go when me and my husband can't be home and take care of them.
Kids Connection not only provides an option for kids to expend their energy, but it also provides the leadership that they will need in middle school, in high school, and in the future.
Meal programs are especially important in rural communities because we know that sometimes the recreation center really might be the only opportunity for kids to eat a healthy meal.
For a lot of these kids, lunch and these snacks are the only meals that they get in the day.
Nobody should have to wonder where their next meal is coming from, whether they're kids, adults, or otherwise.
It's kind of habit now that we started coming to Kids Connection to eat healthy, so now we've been eating healthy a lot at our house and everywhere. They learn to actually enjoy eating their fruits and vegetables versus hustling around to eat chips, candy, soda. They bring every healthy aspect that they learn in Kids Connection, they bring it home.
We need a place to keep our youth engaged, to keep our youth safe, to give our youth opportunities that they maybe never knew existed.
I like first of all coming here every day because I get to stay with my friends, I get to hang out with them. The thing that makes me happiest is that we get to be active here.
The contribution from the Walmart Foundation contributes to our long-term sustainability. Giving this opportunity to a program like Kids Connection truly means the world. And to each child that walks into our program, whether they're here for an hour or they're here for the next 10 years, your support has been absolutely amazing.
questions?
Put my
Thank you.
name on the list, I'll donate whenever you guys need.
Thank you.
I just heard her say she'd cook 5 turkeys for me.
I actually would do that.
Okay.
I really would.
We go through a lot of food. I will, in the past, I've given a report on exactly how much food that we've served, but I think it's like about 70 to 80 pounds of turkey, like 60 pounds of potatoes, and I asked for real potatoes because I cannot stand instant potatoes. I'm not going to serve those to my kids. We're going to take the time to actually make real mashed potatoes. But yeah, it's a pretty big chunk of food, but it's really enjoyable.
You can put my name down too.
Thank you.
Me too, Anika.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
Now
think
we
it was,
did, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, I think it was Jess that I was talking to, talking about the food and all that he's there. Did I get that right? At 2 o'clock? That he gets there to prepare some of that food?
Sometimes it depends on what we can't find volunteers to cook. Jesse and I spend a lot of time working on things for well, actually the 2 o'clock he's probably talking about is like the pancake breakfast.
Okay.
It just depends on what event. I mean, we do whatever we can to bring any additional penny to the program. So it takes a lot of commitment, and I mean, it's all worth it in the end. Just to see my kids right there, so.
And I want to publicly thank you from the Monte Vista Cemetery Association. I don't know if you know this, but we did a fundraiser for the Cemetery Association, and that's another place that has my heart. And Anika volunteered to let us use the Kids Connection to show a movie. And we sold raffle tickets, and Jim was there as well. We sold raffle tickets, and you know, the lucky winner was the winner of the movie that we showed. And while it was not the huge success that we had hoped for financially, it was a very good way to bridge services and bridge the community and bring us together. And I just want to thank you for doing that. And Jim, you were there helping too. So thank you so much. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Wow.
You're welcome. Well, we enjoyed it.
You do a great job.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Council reports. Kathy? Kathy, you got anything?
I don't have anything tonight.
I don't either, just keep up the good work, no?
Victor?
Okay.
I would just want to pass on my congratulations. Are all the high school kids going?
Yeah,
Very
much.
Took the band up, they aced the regionals, came in first place, and then we went to the finals, and they beat out every school in the entire state of Colorado, except one. So it was a great victory, second in the entire state for 1A schools. That was the band performance and their routine and the whole thing. So I wanted to argue with the judges, but anyhow, it was very exciting. So congratulations, if you guys are watching on YouTube. That was stupendous. It was just, it was a great show.
Well, first I want to thank the staff for how hard you guys have worked as far as budget. Jenny, you're doing a great job, everybody, and all the staff in the city. Chief, everybody, Rob, what everybody does is so important to this city. And I think sometimes it falls short. We have the people that, when it first came, we were full house all the time when we first got on, and it's dwindled down. I know a lot of people watch on YouTube, but it's our community, it's all of us. So the decisions that we have to make, yes, sometimes they're not good, and sometimes we take the heat for a lot of stuff and hear everything, but everybody just, you know, I mean, we're all in this together. And the fact that, like I said, it's public record, so when people are out there saying the things they do, public record. Instead of the story getting started here and ending up over here, and we started with a fuzzy little rabbit with pink slippers, now we got a friggin' silverback gorilla that's wearing that bunny for shoes. It's not that way. We need to really communicate, and we all need to do that, and that's something that we lack in this community. I think just some of the communication, we're all aboard. I say the word team, we're up here as a team. Will we agree on everything? No, we're not gonna agree on everything. It was already proven tonight. But we are a team, and we have to unite and stay strong as a team. Obviously, football players play as a team. Well, they almost play as a team, so that's not a good. We have to be a team. We have to be a team with the city manager, Anita, Mike, Chief, Rob. We have to stay as a team. So we're not, it's like a family, right? You're not gonna always make everybody happy, and the siblings are gonna fight no matter what you do. So that to me is key. We got to remember that. We always have to stay a team and stay united. So the other thing I want to throw a pitch out there on the food bank, because the food bank will be having their Thanksgiving handout on the 16th, I believe it is. Last year they served between 500 and 700 families. They're still in need for food. National Make a Difference Day, for those of you who got involved in that, or if you didn't, you missed out on a really good opportunity to get rid of a bunch of trash for a very reasonable price. But there was a huge donation there, and Chief showed up to help us unload the truck. There was quite a few goodies in that truck, and he brought part of his police officers and thanked them. So that's another thing, as you do. There's a lot of families in need in this community, so. That's all I got, other than saying for those that are watching on YouTube, be sure the November 15th public hearing for the chickens. So thank you all very much. Meeting adjourned till November 15th.